You're tuned in to the Robert Joodat Podcast, where curiosity meets human peer review. Though the voice is artificial, the knowledge is authentic. Let's begin.
One company, two platforms. One is deployed in combat zones where generals quote it by name. The other is on the side of a Ferrari Formula One car at Monza. Today, we are breaking down Palantir Gotham versus Palantir Foundry, what each platform actually does, who uses them and why, and what the real-world numbers tell us about where each one stands in 2026. By the end of this episode, you will know the difference between these two products, understand why comparing them is trickier than it sounds, and have a clear picture of the kind of decisions each one is built to power. Joining me to dig into all of this is someone who has gone deep on the data. Let's get into it.
So the first thing to get straight is that Gotham and Foundry are not really fighting each other for the same customers. They come from the same company, Palantir Technologies, but they were built for fundamentally different worlds.
Right, and I think that's what surprises a lot of people. You hear Palantir and you think of one thing, but there are actually these two distinct platforms sitting under that umbrella.
Exactly. And the names are a clue. Gotham, as in Batman City, is Palantir's platform for defense, intelligence, and law enforcement. Palantir's own website describes it as, quote, the operating system for global decision-making. That is not subtle language.
The operating system for global decision-making. That is a big claim.
It is. And according to Palantir's official service definition document, Gotham is a, quote, proven end-to-end commercial off-the-shelf platform for AI-enabled defense, intelligence, and law enforcement operations. It enables secure collaboration, intelligence analysis, and investigations, and it is the result of more than a decade of partnerships with military, intelligence, and law enforcement agencies.
So this is not a product that just launched. This has been built up over years of actual field use.
More than a decade, yes. And the use cases on Palantir's own Gotham page are striking. We're talking about AI-powered targeting that supports soldiers in the field, autonomous tasking of sensors, drones, satellites, and mixed reality capabilities that can turn a bunker or an outpost into an instant command center.
Wait, drones and satellites? Like Gotham is coordinating that kind of infrastructure?
That is what Palantir describes on their platform page. And there is a quote from General James Mattis, former U.S. Secretary of Defense, that says, and I am reading this directly, Palantir came up with groundbreaking technologies that help us make better decisions in combat zones. You are giving us advantages right now that we need.
That is a pretty powerful endorsement. So that is Gotham. What about Foundry? Because that feels like a completely different animal.
Completely different. Foundry is Palantir's commercial and enterprise platform. According to Palantir's own documentation, Foundry is designed to be the data integration backbone for the most complex environments in the world, but the complexity it is solving for is organizational, not military.
So instead of combat zones, we're talking about supply chains, manufacturing, finance, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Foundry is a SaaS product, software as a service, that pulls in data from enterprise resource planning systems, manufacturing execution systems, data lakes, and more. According to a LinkedIn deep dive by principal software engineer Gal Levenstein, Foundry was named by Forrester as a leader in the Forrester Wave for AI and ML platforms in Q3 2022, scoring the highest marks possible in product vision, performance, market approach, and applications.
So Forrester, one of the big analyst firms, put Foundry at the top of the AI and ML platform category. That is significant.
It is. And what makes Foundry interesting is that it goes way beyond what most people think of as a data platform. According to SystemSoft Technologies, Foundry is not a BI tool or a traditional data lake. It is a full operational stack where pipelines, models, governance, and decision workflows all converge.
Okay, so let me make sure I have this right. Gotham is built for defense and intelligence, high-stakes, mission-critical, battlefield-level decisions. Foundry is built for enterprise operations, supply chains, finance, manufacturing. Same company, very different missions.
That is the cleanest way to put it. And here is where it gets interesting. They are not mutually exclusive. Palantir's own impact study describes the Gotham platform, configured with Foundry, as the data infrastructure for hundreds of government, commercial, and nonprofit organizations. So in some deployments, they actually work together.
Oh, that is a wrinkle I did not expect. So it is not always an either-or choice.
Right. But for most organizations, the choice is pretty clear based on what you are trying to do. If you are a defense agency or law enforcement, Gotham is your platform. If you are a commercial enterprise or a government agency managing operational data at scale, Foundry is where you land.
Let's talk numbers because I think the data here tells a really interesting story. What does the market actually look like for these two platforms right now?
So according to PeerSpot's May 2026 data integration report, Palantir Foundry is ranked number 13 in the data integration category with a 2.1% mindshare. Palantir Gotham is ranked number 52 with a 0.8% mindshare. Foundry has 18 user reviews on the platform. Gotham has 1.
One review. That is a pretty thin sample.
It is, but think about who is using Gotham. These are military and intelligence professionals. They are not exactly logging onto PeerSpot to leave software reviews. The secrecy around those deployments is part of the product.
That is a fair point. And what about the ratings themselves?
Here is the counterintuitive part. Despite having far fewer reviews, Gotham actually scores slightly higher. According to PeerSpot, Gotham has an average rating of 8 and 100% of its users are willing to recommend it. Foundry has an average rating of 7.8 and 88% of users would recommend it.
Wait, 100% recommendation rate for Gotham? That is remarkable.
It is, and I think it speaks to something important about the nature of that user base. When your platform is being used in combat zones and intelligence operations, the people using it are not casual adopters. They are deeply embedded, highly trained, and the stakes of the software working correctly are extremely high. If they are recommending it, they mean it.
Yeah, and on the Foundry side, 88% is still strong, but there is clearly some friction. One reviewer on PeerSpot, an associate vice president at a large insurance company, said that while Foundry is improving day by day, some things are still not intuitive enough.
That tracks. Foundry is a very powerful platform, but power and ease of use do not always go hand in hand. The same reviewer noted significant improvements over the past 1 to 2 years, which suggests Palantir is actively working on that usability gap.
Let's talk about the real-world deployments, because this is where things get genuinely fascinating. What are organizations actually doing with Foundry?
So the range is pretty wild. According to Caspera's case study database, Palantir secured a significant AI contract with Boeing, deploying Foundry across Boeing's Defense, Space, and Security division to improve production cycles and oversight for aircraft, satellites, and missile systems.
Boeing. That is a massive deployment.
And then there is Lear Corporation, an automotive supplier, which renewed a 5-year contract with Palantir and expanded its use of Foundry and Palantir's AI platform. According to Caspera, that collaboration saved Lear over $30 million in 2025 by optimizing processes and managing risks.
$30 million in savings in 1 year.
In 1 year. And then, and this is the one that really makes you do a double take, Palantir partnered with Scuderia Ferrari to enhance Ferrari's data-driven decision-making using Foundry. According to Caspera, the collaboration was highlighted at the Monza Grand Prix with Palantir's logo on Ferrari's F1 car.
So we went from combat zones to Formula One racing. That is the range of what Foundry is doing.
That is the range. And it makes sense when you understand what Foundry actually does. According to SystemSoft Technologies, Foundry integrates sensor data, maintenance logs, and environmental conditions into a single ontology. For Ferrari, that means race data, car telemetry, weather conditions, all fused together so engineers can make faster, better decisions during a race.
Okay, I want to dig into the technical side a bit, because there is something in the search results about the SDK differences between Gotham and Foundry that I think is actually really revealing.
Yes, this is a good one. Palantir provides 2 separate platform APIs, one for Gotham and one for Foundry. According to Palantir's own GitHub documentation, there is the Gotham Platform SDK, the Foundry Platform SDK, and then a third one called the Ontology SDK, which is specifically for interacting with Foundry's ontology layer.
So even at the developer level, these are treated as completely separate systems.
Completely separate. And the GitHub documentation is explicit. It says, quote, "Make sure to understand the difference between the Foundry, Gotham, and Ontology SDKs before continuing. It is not a subtle warning. They are telling developers, do not mix these up."
And what is the Ontology SDK actually doing? Because that term keeps coming up with Foundry.
So the ontology is essentially Foundry's way of modeling the real world inside the platform. According to Palantir's documentation, the Ontology SDK allows you to access the full power of the ontology directly from your development environment. Think of it as a living map of your organization, your assets, your people, your processes, all connected and queryable in real time.
That is a really useful way to think about it. It is not just storing data, it is modeling relationships between things.
Exactly. And that is what makes Foundry more than a data warehouse. According to SystemSoft Technologies, Foundry allows organizations to build personnel models that reflect real-world readiness, connecting training records, certifications, medical clearance, and deployment history into a single view. Planners do not have to check 5 different systems. Everything is modeled and visualized in one place.
That use case, personnel and mission readiness, actually sounds like it could overlap with what Gotham does. Where does one end and the other begin?
That is the right question to push on. The way I read the search results, Gotham is about real-time operational decision-making in the field, targeting, sensor coordination, situational awareness in active environments. Foundry is more about the organizational and data infrastructure layer, pipelines, models, supply chains, financial forecasting.
So Gotham is the front line and Foundry is the back office, even when both are being used by the same kind of organization.
That is a clean way to frame it. And Palantir's own impact study actually supports that framing. It describes the Gotham platform configured with Foundry as serving hundreds of government, commercial, and nonprofit organizations. They can coexist and complement each other.
Let's talk about Foundry's interoperability, because that came up in a really interesting way in the search results, specifically around a US government agency case study.
Yes. So according to Palantir's own impact study, a large U.S. government agency had a growing data ecosystem made up of disparate, heterogeneous systems. The agency's siloed environment created an urgent need for interoperability. They conducted a Foundry proof of concept and had a third-party test whether Foundry could meet their stringent interoperability requirements.
And what did they find?
The agency recognized Foundry as a fully open and interoperable solution. The study highlights that Foundry stores data and logic in open formats, uses open APIs, and, importantly, customers retain full control over their data at all times. They can query, copy, export, delete, or revoke access to their data at any point.
That last point is actually significant. A lot of enterprise platforms create lock-in. You put your data in and it becomes very hard to get it out. Foundry is explicitly designed to avoid that.
Exactly. And Foundry is FedRAMP moderate authorized, which means it meets the U.S. federal government security standards for cloud services. That is a meaningful credential for any organization operating in regulated or sensitive environments.
Okay, so let me ask the question that I think a lot of people are actually wondering. If you are a mid-size organization trying to figure out which of these platforms is relevant to you, how do you even begin to think about that?
Honestly, for most organizations, the answer is pretty simple. If you are not in defense, intelligence, or law enforcement, Gotham is not your platform. It is a specialized tool built for a specialized mission. Foundry, on the other hand, is designed for a much broader range of organizations: manufacturing, finance, supply chain, healthcare, government agencies managing operational data.
And the PeerSpot rankings kind of reflect that, right? Foundry is ranked in multiple categories: supply chain analytics, cloud data integration, data management platforms, while Gotham has no ranking in other categories.
Right. According to PeerSpot's May 2026 data, Foundry is ranked number 1 in supply chain analytics and number 1 in data management platforms. It is number 8 in IT operations analytics and number 10 in cloud data integration. Gotham does not appear in any of those commercial categories because it is not competing there.
It is almost like comparing a fighter jet to a cargo plane. Both are aircraft. Both are impressive, but they are built for completely different missions.
That is actually a really good analogy. And I think the danger is when people try to evaluate them on the same axis, like which one has better data integration features. That question does not really make sense when one of them is designed to coordinate drone strikes and the other is helping Ferrari win races.
Ha, yeah, those are not the same problem. Let me ask you something though. Is there any tension in the fact that Palantir is selling to both the defense sector and commercial enterprises? Like, does that create any friction?
That is a real conversation in the tech world. Palantir has faced scrutiny over its defense contracts for years, but from a pure product perspective, the two platforms are architecturally separate, different SDKs, different APIs, different deployment models. The Boeing deal is interesting because it spans both worlds. Foundry is being used in Boeing's defense, space, and security division, and according to Coursera, the deal also includes AI support for classified defense missions.
So even in the commercial space, Palantir's defense roots are never far away.
Never far away. And I think that is actually part of what makes Palantir's platforms credible in high-stakes environments. The technology was forged in some of the most demanding operational contexts imaginable. When Foundry says it is designed for the most complex environments in the world, that is not marketing language. It is a lineage claim.
That is a really interesting reframe. The defense heritage is not a liability, it is a proof point.
For certain buyers, absolutely. If your data environment is genuinely complex, if you have siloed systems, real-time operational requirements, and high stakes for getting it wrong, the fact that this technology has been tested in combat zones is actually reassuring.
Let's zoom out a bit. What does the mindshare trend tell us about where these platforms are heading?
So, according to PeerSpot's May 2026 data, Foundry's mindshare in the data integration category has actually declined from 2.8% the previous year to 2.1% now. Gotham's mindshare, on the other hand, has grown from 0.5% to 0.8%. Both are still small numbers in absolute terms, but the directional trend is interesting.
So, Foundry is losing a little ground in data integration while Gotham is gaining. What do you make of that?
A few possible explanations. The data integration market is crowded. You have got Informatica, Microsoft, Qlik, and a whole ecosystem of tools competing for that mindshare. Foundry is a premium, complex platform that is not going to win on volume. Gotham's growth, meanwhile, might reflect increased defense spending and the growing role of AI in military operations globally.
And Foundry is ranked #1 in supply chain analytics and data management platforms. So even if its data integration mindshare is slipping, it is clearly dominant in specific verticals.
Exactly. The mindshare number is a category-level metric. Foundry's real strength is in specific operational domains where it has no real peer. Supply chain, asset intelligence, financial modeling with live operational data, these are areas where Foundry is not just competing, it is setting the standard.
All right, so when you step back from everything we have covered today, the platform definitions, the real-world deployments, the numbers, the SDK architecture, what is the actual takeaway here?
Here is what this really comes down to. Palantir built two platforms that reflect two fundamentally different kinds of complexity. Gotham is about real-time, high-stakes decision-making in environments where the cost of a wrong call can be catastrophic. Foundry is about operational intelligence at scale, connecting the fragmented data ecosystems that most large organizations are drowning in.
And the fact that they can work together, that Gotham can be configured with Foundry, suggests that Palantir sees these not as two separate products, but as two layers of the same operating system for decision-making.
That is a sharp read, and the real-world evidence backs it up. Lear Corporation saving $30 million in a year. Boeing integrating Foundry into its defense division. Ferrari using it to make faster decisions at Monza. These are not small experiments. These are organizations betting their operations on this platform.
And on the Gotham side, you have General Mattis saying it is giving soldiers advantages they need right now in combat zones. That is about as high stakes a testimonial as you can get.
Right. And I think the lesson for anyone evaluating these platforms is this: do not compare them on a feature checklist. Ask what kind of decisions you are trying to make, at what speed, and with what consequences. The answer to that question will tell you which platform or which combination actually fits.
That is the actionable insight right there. It is not about which platform is better. It is about which platform is built for your mission.
And Palantir has been very deliberate about that distinction. Two platforms, two SDKs, two completely different user bases, but one underlying philosophy: data should drive decisions, not just reports.
We started this episode with a company whose platform is quoted by generals in combat zones and whose logo is on a Formula One car at Monza. That range is not an accident, it is the whole point. Palantir built Gotham for the battlefield and Foundry for the boardroom, and the search results show that both are delivering in their respective lanes.
And the numbers are telling. 100% recommendation rate from Gotham specialized users. $30 million saved by Lear Corporation using Foundry. A U.S. government agency validating Foundry's interoperability through independent third-party testing. These are not hypothetical capabilities, they are documented outcomes.
So the next time someone asks you what Palantir actually does, the answer is, it depends on which Palantir you are talking about. And now you know the difference. That is a wrap on this episode of Copilot Podcasts. Thanks for listening, and we will see you on the next one.